Today, we're diving into the confidence paradox and when too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. So, buckle up, friends, because keeping everything simple, we're diving right in. Welcome back to the Keeping Everything Simple podcast. I'm your host and fellow student, Michael Klukas, and on this show, we boil down complicated topics into simple, actionable tips. So, this is also another segment of the learning curve, which, if you missed my episode last week, is going to be going over lessons that I've learned and things that I've tried and what you can take away from them to either learn from my mistakes or to do better when you start off and strike it out on your own. So the question of the day here is, what is the paradox of self-confidence? And stealing this from Mark Manson and his description of it, it is the more you try to impress people, the less impressed they will ultimately be. So starting off with the first segment is, why does that matter? And it matters because if you're struggling with self-confidence, then I consider confidence to kind of be like this pendulum that swings back and forth, and it goes from one extreme to the other. So if you're trying too hard, then things feel unnatural. For yourself, you might feel that you are forcing some type of reaction, forcing some type of persona to come out, rather than being able to naturally engage with people, naturally feel comfortable in your own skin even. And that can put you in a lot of awkward positions because you feel you have to keep up a certain character rather than allowing yourself to be who you truly are and allow yourself to be happy with that. The other thing here is that when you try too little, then it can become draining when nothing feels really motivating, nothing feels really like it's sticking quite right. And that is a very unmotivating spot to be in, because then you're just thinking to yourself, well, what's kind of the point? Because I don't need to put in this effort. No one else is putting in this effort. And you kind of end up in this negative feedback loop where it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where either you're trying too hard and people are kind of put off by the fact that they know you're trying too hard, or you're trying too little and people see how little you're trying and then they just wonder, well, why aren't you putting in a little bit more effort towards this? And it's a very tricky spot to be in, especially as I said, if you struggle with self-confidence to begin with, then you may yo-yo back and forth between the two extremes at different points, just depending on what season of life you're in or even what situation you've somehow found yourself in. But I want to be able to emphasize the fact that even though anyone can struggle with self-confidence at any point in their life, self-confidence itself is like a muscle. So any muscle that you want to train, you want to improve, you actively have to work with. You have to work on it and push it to its limits and help it grow. You got to give it the right fuel and you got to give it the right training regimen and training routines. And because self-confidence is also a muscle, that does mean the more you actively try to use it, the more familiar you'll get with it and the stronger it will become as well over time. Now, here's my experience. So a little bit of story time for you guys. Now, I, for whatever reason, was very overconfident as a child. And when I say overconfident, it was no small feat. And when I say no small feat, it's because I was no small child. I was 200 pounds in like the 5th grade. And that's not exactly a healthy spot to be in for a child. But at the same time, I was incredibly self-confident. Don't know where that came from or how that occurred, but it also came from what I believe now, hindsight being 2020, from just this lack of self-awareness for what position I was actively in. Now, of course, I was always told to do my best, that I was always able to provide or put my best foot forward, and that could have been the key foundational piece of advice that I grew up hearing that helped me kind of navigate that without ever knowing how much of an issue it was. But I'm going to put a photo up on the screen so you can just see what it looks like. But yeah, I was the very chubby little kid here. And I was still trying, though, to make the most of my confidence, because it'd be doing things like performing, doing all the school talent shows, really loving performing and doing the kids like singing and song events for our parents that we'd put on. And let me tell you, my overconfidence made me believe that I was the absolute shit. Like I was the shit. And that came out in various ways, some more problematic than others as I grew up. And the key there is growing up, because I had to be able to understand that, hey, this is not something that comes normally or naturally to everybody. For whatever reason, that was my anomaly of I am overweight. I feel healthy, but also I just feel confident in my own self, despite knowing that I was, or not knowing that I was so drastically overweight for my age. Now, I did grow into my weight, which was great because I had a growth spurt and it kind of all evened out. But that in of itself just kind of led me to question and wonder as I grew older, well, where is this confidence coming from? Because now as I look back on it, my fiance, when she first met me in high school, and this is after I'd shed the pounds, I had joined more sports and everything growing up, then she thought I was a playboy when she first met me, which is something that forever makes me laugh. But at the same time, I have to then wonder, it's like, well, was that just the ego and the confidence? And we've had discussions about this and understanding that it was just how I portrayed myself with the overconfidence and having too much of it at times that kind of led to that initial reaction. And the other thing is just trying to really hone in on how confidence is a great thing to have. It is very valuable. It allows you to navigate situations with a lot more calm and ease, even if you aren't 100% certain that you know how it's going to turn out, but you have at least the self-assured or the self-assurance that things will work out well. Things will work out in some capacity and you will be okay. And this is not to say that I regret having that level of confidence as a kid, as a teenager growing up, because most teenagers believe they're indestructible and they believe that they are on top of the world at some point or another. But for myself, it has helped me find the ways that I'm able to look back on it and be thankful that I was able to put myself out there because of it. I did things like go to America's Got Talent, American Idol multiple times throughout my time in high school and middle school, just because I wanted to try it out and I felt that, hey, I can do this. Why not? Let me put myself out there and just make something happen or try to make something happen because I think it's fun, because I think it's cool, and because it's something that will, for me, will be memorable. And that takes a lot of self-confidence to do. But that was the muscle that I was consistently working anytime I tried to put on that or go through a different experience. And if you watch the last episode or listen to the last episode, you'll know that I, for side hustles that I had during that time, tried to do a lot of different things for the business club I was a part of. And that also accumulated into the self-confidence because I have been doing YouTube for well over a decade, where there'd be long breaks in there, but throughout middle school and high school, I was posting consistently. That was during like the first generation or the second generation of YouTube, and I was really trying to hone in on like what that meant for me and how I was gonna like make it work. And then taking a break from senior year to like college for a couple years before diving right back into it, and then now coming back to it yet again. And it's just been something that I believe also was another outlet in which the self-confidence was able to be worked on a consistent weekly basis of, I have to make this, I have to create something, and I'm going to put it out there, and we'll see what comes of it. We'll see how many hate comments I get. We'll see how many judgmental people choose to leave a negative review or down like the video and give it a thumbs down. And so many things. But it was that intentional effort of, I'm going to try this even though I don't 100% know how it's going to turn out, and being okay with that. And the learning curve here is trying to create something new out of what could have been a very bad habit to break, because overconfidence is having too much belief that you are doing the right thing and that you are always going to have the right answer. So again, Mark Manson puts it as, the more we try to impress others, the less impressed they'll be. And I refine it a little bit further to myself to say, the more that you are assured of yourself, then the less likely the outcome will go the way you want it to. Because you have to let yourself accept the fact that you won't be perfect and that you aren't perfect. having too much self-confidence is the belief that, all right, everything's going to go just fine because I think it will and I can make it happen. Now, to some people that might work out, but it's not always going to be true. So you have to accept that you aren't going to be perfect and that it is more than okay. And I really want to emphasize that part because it is okay to not be perfect because we're all going to make mistakes in some way or another. And then you have to find yourself falling in love with the process of something because that is what's also going to give us confidence throughout the majority of our life is that we are honing something. We are putting effort consistently towards something. That's where I think me doing YouTube for so many years has helped me have that level of confidence today where I'm able to say, all right, cool. I can jump back into this because I love the process of creating and planning and filming and just trying something out, trying something new, even though I have no semblance of this actively working out the way I planned it or the way I want it to. And then you have to also be able to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up and not drag you down. For myself, that was a lot of my teammates throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, people that would avidly support what I was doing, even if they thought it was the most random thing in the world. But they would still think, all right, cool, he's doing it, let's support him. And that is so important because you are ultimately the sum of the people that you surround yourself with. You don't want to surround yourself with people who are going to constantly drag you down and stop you from trying these new things that you know will be fun and will be an interesting experience when they just say, oh, no, you can't do it. You shouldn't do it. Don't even try. Because you want to surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you to step outside your comfort zone and encourage you to put yourself out there. And you do want to let your confidence shine in a way that doesn't get overwhelming or again feels like too much, because if you're trying too much, it's not going to impress people. It's going to have the very much so the opposite effect. But it's finding ways that make you happy and that you can let it come out in comfortable, meaningful ways. So it can be things like your sense of style, how you choose to portray that. It can be the project that you work on and what you tell people about. It can be the goals that you are aiming towards or the milestones you're trying to hit. It's just these different ways of having the confidence be on display without feeling like you have to really avidly vocalize everybody. All right, I'm confident. I'm the shit. I am on top of the world all the time. It's just finding ways of allowing it to, again, come through without feeling like you were trying too hard to make it a point that you are confident. And then I want to encourage you to also be just aware of the confidence pendulum that will swing back and forth, sometimes going too far in one extreme of overconfidence, sometimes going too far on the other extreme of too little confidence, and just trying to understand that the middle ground is usually the best route to go. But at the same time, that it's inevitable that some swings will happen. I'm not showing enough confidence now, and I'm too confident over here. So it's just trying to be aware of what it will look like for you, because confidence, again, is not a bad thing, but it can become a bad thing if we are not mindful and aware of how it's coming across. And then the final thing I want to emphasize here is to practice, practice, practice. It sounds weird to say it, but you have to practice the self-confidence. And whether that is you trying to do the self-affirmations in the morning, it's you putting yourself out there and raising your hand in class a couple more times out of the day, or it's you volunteering for a project at work that you aren't 100% certain that you can do, but you want to try it because the only way that you are going to push your self-confidence to grow and to get to new levels is that you actively try to stretch it and try to put it into these intentional growth spurts. And I want you guys to remember, though, that confidence being the muscle that it is, you can't compare your confidence to someone else and have that be your point of reference. Because someone who's been on the self-development kick for 5+ years is probably going to be in a much different position than somebody who started only last week or last month. You want to make sure that you are taking into consideration who is inspiring you and who you are looking to for motivation, because the person that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself from yesterday. It should be yourself from last week. It should be yourself from last month. It shouldn't be someone who, again, has been putting in work for years on end and has gotten to where they are because they've gone through the ups and downs that come with trying to become more confident, trying to become more self assured with who they are. And if it's inspiring to you to see what these people are doing, seeing how they do it, then that's a different story. That makes sense and that is okay. But you want to make sure that it's not demotivating you because you can't get to where they are overnight, or because you feel like, oh, I should be able to do this because they grew up like I did, or they're similar to me. Why can't I be there already? So you have to be careful about what you allow yourself to consume in terms of content and in terms of inspirational content. But just be aware that you should be comparing yourself only to yourself in the end. And I want to also encourage you that your ultimate focus should be just getting 1% better every single day throughout the years. Because if you are improving just one small little bit, one small little push every single day, over time, you will see so many changes that are just the consistent results of you putting in small, consistent steps, small, consistent effort every single day. And I say consistency is such a big part of it because I believe self confidence in the end is just a matter of self understanding and self control. Being able to understand who you are and what makes you tick, what makes you happy, and the self control to pursue it and to intentionally work on the things that are meaningful to you. And so that's the learning curve of the day, knowing that self confidence can be a great thing, but if you have too much of it or if you're trying too hard with it, it's going to have the opposite effect of what you were hoping. And that may result in that self confidence pendulum swinging from overconfidence way over back to little to no confidence. So just be mindful about where you currently are right now. Compare yourself only to yourself and try to get 1% better every single day, because over time you will see the results you're looking for, but you have to trust the process and you have to push yourself to work that self-confidence muscle over time. Let me know down in the comments below on if you agree with my take on self-confidence and how it can be improved over time, or even if you just relate to my story of how overconfidence was something that I had growing up, and now I understand it a lot more and can understand that there was definitely too much back then. But with that, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Again, comment down below so you can let me know, or even just comment your favorite emoji. I'm stealing that from Harris Heller, but that's just for the engagement in the algorithm. But if you're watching this on YouTube, also ring the notification bell so that way you know every time I upload a new episode. If you're listening to us on a podcast app of choice, leave us a 5-star rating. That helps me out so much and helps promote the show to other people just like you. Don't forget to give us a follow so that way you'll know every time I upload a new episode as it hits your feed. But with that, have an amazing day, you amazing people. Keeping everything simple. I will see you all in the next episode. Go out there and do great things.